Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 12. I am Francis Oyima, edit, coming to you live from here, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government orders NEMA to provide reliefs to flood victims. Labour protests as federal government threatens union leaders with contempt charge. Plus, President Putin meets former Wagner commander Andres Turovtsev. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. We begin this afternoon from the national scene where the federal government, through the National Economic Council, NEC, has directed the National Emergency Management, NEMA, to provide immediate intervention and relief to states affected by floods. It also resolved to develop and articulate a roadmap to address flooding and manage attendant disasters. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nyesom Wike, revealed this announcement after the 136th NEC meeting was held at the Esa Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja. Wike said the Governor of Kogi State and Chairman of the Committee on the Impact of Flood and Disaster across the states in Nigeria, Yahaya Bello, categorized states into A, B, and C based on degrees of damage. Group A states with over 15 points and most affected include Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Kogi, Nasarawa, Niger, Rivers, Enugu, Kano, Oyo, Yobe, and Zamfara, while Group B states with 10 to 15 points are Cross River, Delta, Jigawa, Kwara, and Ondo. Also Group C states with less than 10 points are Katsina, Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Bauchi, Ebonyi, Edo, Ekiti, Gombe, Imo, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Lagos, Ogun, Osun, Plateau, Sokoto, Taraba, and the FCT. Meanwhile, the Minister of Works, David Mahi, has disclosed that the federal government would begin immediate reconstruction of the collapsed Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway. Mahi stated this when he and Governor Peter Amba of Enugu State visited the scene of the collapsed bridge for an on-the-spot assessment as part of his working visit to the state. He said the reconstruction of the bridge would end the plight of commuters plying the road, noting that the government would in the meantime provide alternative roads for the people. The minister explained that the collapse occurred because the pipes were exposed, adding that the bridge was constructed in 1968. Away from that, the National Economic Council, NEC, has urged the Nigeria Labour Congress to wait for the October 1 Independence Day broadcast by President Bola Tinubu. Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutwang made the appeal while briefing newsmen at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He said Tinubu would address their demands among other issues in his independence speech on Sunday. He urged the leadership of the organized labor to be patient with the federal government and give more time for dialogue.
NEC actually expressed genuine concern about the situation in the country and appreciates the concern by labor to have those issues addressed. And that is why NEC is appealing for patience, is appealing for time to be able to address the concerns of labor.
Staff of the committee. And so they came up with 3 categories and categorized states in the 3 categories, category A, category B, and category C.
In a related development, the National Deputy President of the Trade Union Congress, Tommy Etam, has berated moves by the federal government to hamstring the organized labor from embarking on an indefinite nationwide strike from Tuesday using the court. It stated that labor leaders would not succumb to any threat by the government, noting that they were ready to go to prison in their fight for better lives for Nigerian workers. The TUC deputy president said these against the backdrop of the warning by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, senior advocate of Nigeria, that the proposed strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC was in contravention of a subsisting court order restraining the unions from declaring an industrial action. Recall that the NLC and TUC had announced an indefinite strike with effect from October 3, 2023, to protest the alleged failure of the federal government to provide post-subsidy palliatives for workers and implement policies that could alleviate the sufferings of the masses after the removal of the fuel subsidy. In the meantime, the Trade Union Congress TUC says it is ready to shut down all oil-field locations in the country if the ongoing discussions with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) and the Nigerian Egypt Oil Company (NAOC) do not yield positive result. The president of TUC, Festus Osifo, made the threat in a televised interview. Osifo maintained that the union's position is for due process to be followed. According to him, TUC is not in support of ruling its members over the companies without adequate development plans for workers who have worked for so many years for the company. In a separate development, the Nigeria Customs Service (NCS) has said that its latest findings show that the quality and price of Nigeria's premium motor spirit (PMS), popularly called petrol, were the key factors causing the persistent smuggling of PMS out of the country. The Acting Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, disclosed this in Abuja at an event organized by the service to mark the first 100 days in office of the customs boss. Adeniyi said a monthly rise in its revenue generation from an average of 202 billion naira to 343 billion naira, representing an increase of 70%. Added that with the figures, the service has surpassed its monthly revenue target of 307 billion naira. Judicial matters, the Supreme Court in Abuja has affirmed Senator Athan Achonu as the Labour Party governorship candidate for the November 11 governorship election in Imo State. Achonu is aiming to become the first physically challenged governor in the country through the off-season election taking place in the state. Recall that an aspirant in the last Labour Party primaries, Bastille Maduka, had objected to Achonu's candidature at both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, but the Apex Court dismissed the case, saying it lacked local standing. A panel of 5 justices, led by Justice Inyang Okoro, also chided the appellant for abusing the court process and time. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in the state capital has dismissed a petition filed by the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and its candidate in the 2023 election, Issa Ashiru, against the victory of Governor Oba Sani of the All Progressive Congress (APC). In a dissenting judgment of 2 against 1, a 3-member panel headed by Justice Victor Oviawi dismissed the petition on the ground that the pre-hearing notice was filed out of time and therefore deemed to be abandoned. Tribunal chairman and another member held that the appeal brought by PDP and Ashiru against the dismissal of their petition at the preliminary stage by the first and second defendants was not meritorious because the filing of the pre-hearing notice was abandoned and out of time and therefore had dealt the entire petition a fatal blow. Meanwhile, the tribunal noted that if the petition had not been dismissed for lack of merit, it would have ordered a supplementary election in 2020 in 22 polling units within 90 days in the substantive judgment. Now to Africa, where the United States has imposed sanctions on 2 companies, including one based in Russia and 1 person it accused of increasing instability in Sudan as fighting reportedly killed thousands and displaced millions of civilians. The action is the latest round of sanctions imposed by the White House after war between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) broke out in April over plans for a political transition and the integration of the RSF into the army, 4 years after longtime ruler Omar al-Bashir was overthrown in an uprising. In a statement, the Treasury Department's Under Secretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, Brian Nelson, said the sanctions targets those who have undercut efforts to find a peaceful democratic solution in Sudan. Meanwhile, the United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Washington had taken steps to impose visa restrictions on people believed to be part of efforts to undermine Sudan's democratic transition, including Sudanese Islamists and former officials, as well as others suppressing human rights and involved in other actions. Still in Africa, voting is underway in parliamentary elections in Eswatini, where King Mswati III continues to rule as Africa's last absolute monarch. Reports say political parties are banned and candidates are to contest the polls as individuals. According to reports, Parliament plays an advisory role to the king, who appoints the Prime Minister and the cabinet. On the foreign scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin has met one of the most senior former commanders of the Wagner mercenary group, Andrei Trosiev, who the Kremlin says now works for the defense ministry. Trosiev is a former aide of late Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash in August. The Kremlin said President Putin has asked Trosiev to oversee volunteer fighter units in Ukraine. The meeting comes as Putin attempts to reassert his authority following Wagner's mutiny in June. Still on the foreign scene, at least 25 people have reportedly been killed and more than 80 injured by a suicide bomber targeting a procession marking the birthday of Islam's Prophet Muhammad in Pakistani's southwestern Balochistan province. The Balochistan Minister for Information, Jan Akyazai, announced a 3-day mourning period for the dead as a result of the attack. Reports say while the celebration of the Prophet's birthday is accepted by the majority of Islamic sects in Pakistan, certain denominations view it as an unwarranted innovation. Still to come in the news, Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Groups agrees to sell minority stake. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of our news stories. On a business news, the National Economic Council (NEC) has affirmed that the $3 billion emergency loan for crude oil the federal government secured in August would be deployed to stabilize the naira, whose values continue to fluctuate in the investors and exporters window and worsen in the parallel market. Addressing State House correspondents after the 136th NEC meeting, which was held at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja, the Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule said they are confident that with the plan that will come out and with all the items that have been listed on the improvement of revenue, the $3 billion shall be useful to Nigerians down the line. Recall that on August 16, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had revealed that it secured an emergency $3 billion crude repayment loan from Afrexim Bank to relieve pressure on the naira. It said the loan would enable it to settle taxes and royalties in advance, adding that it would also equip the federal government with the necessary dollar liquidity to stabilize the naira with limited risk. Still in business, manufacturers have reportedly spent at least 60.4 billion naira on alternative energy sources in the first half of 2023. Manufacturers Association of Nigerian Men, in its half-yearly economic review published recently, said that was 21.25% from 76.7 billion naira spent on alternative energy in the same period in the prior year. It attributed the decrease in manufacturers' expenditure on alternative energy sources to the rise in electricity supply to the industries from the national grid in the first half of this year to 11.3 hours per day from 10.2 hours recorded in the same period of 2022. It added that the electricity supply also increased by 42 minutes when compared with 10.6 average hours per day of electricity supply in the corresponding period of last year. In health, doctors in Kogi State have suspended a strike embarked upon 2 days ago to protest the alleged kidnap of their colleague, Dr. Austin Owamabwe. These followed assurance given by the state government that efforts would be intensified to ensure the safe return of their colleague. Suspension of the 72-hour strike was contained in a communique jointly signed by Kogi State NMA Chairman Dr. Olushola Baku and Secretary Dr. Emmanuel Calvin, respectively, after an emergency Congress meeting of the association. According to the communique, the meeting was meant to review the industrial action embarked on to protest the kidnapping of Umuragbe. The doctors observed that the strike had effectively conveyed the association's displeasure to the society at large, stressing that relevant security agencies and stakeholders have shown remarkable commitment to ensuring the safe release of their colleagues. Still in health, Delta State government says it has recorded over 60 incidents and 5 fatalities caused by rabies disease due to dog bites in 3 months in the state. The Commissioner for Agriculture, Perez Omong, said this in Asaba at the inauguration of a sensitization campaign against rabies disease in Delta. Reports say the State Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Ministry of Health and Ministry of Environment, in collaboration with the federal government and World Health Organization, embarked on a roadwalk against rabies disease in Asaba. The roadwalk was meant to sensitize the public in commemoration of the 17th World Rabies Day. To sport now, where Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Group FSG have agreed to sell a minority stake in the club worth between £82 million and £164 million to global sports investment firm Dynasty Equity. The deal ends the search for new investment by FSG, who wanted to retain majority ownership of the Reds. The new investment will primarily be used to pay off the club's bank debt. Still in sport, Arsenal winger Cathy McCabe has signed a new contract. The Republic of Ireland captain has made 193 appearances and scored 31 goals for the club since joining in 2015. The Gunners reportedly rejected an offer from Chelsea for McCabe in January, and her previous contract was set to expire next summer. She has played a significant role in the club's success in recent years, winning 1 Women's Super League WSL title, 1 FA Cup and 2 League Cups. Meanwhile, Arsenal have not disclosed the length of McCabe's deal, but their eagerness to keep her reflects the 28-year-old's value to the team. On our entertainment news, lights, cameras, and pulsating beats took center stage at the exclusive premiere of She Must Be Obeyed at the iconic film house IMAX in Lagos. In attendance were the creme de la creme of the industry, including Toyin Abraham, Mo Abudu, Iyabo Ojo, Dakore Ebosu Akande, Femi Adebayo, Jeje Skills, and the cast of the series, including Funke Akindele, Nancy Sime, Abdul Latif Adedimeji, Akanani, Vieye, Wajay Patience, Uzoko, Rachel Okonkwo, and Mike Ezurunye. Still on entertainment, the Lagos State Police Command has confirmed that music promoter Balogun Eletu, also known as Sam Larry, is now in its custody as the probe of Afrobeat singer Mo Batsi's death on September 12 continues. This is made known by the Nigerian Police Public Relations Officer ASP Benjamin Hunduyan via his X account. The development comes less than 24 hours after Naira Marley said he was willing to fly back to Nigeria for investigation. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channels. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 12. I am Francis Oyima, edit. Many thanks, and do enjoy the rest of your day.